So this video is going to be very, very, very simple because we're going to look at levels of resistance which could bite us on the arse and most importantly send us a bit lower, certainly for the altcoins. Bitcoin's in a treacherous area, so we need to look at that too. But yeah, please don't be alarmed. I do think we are still in that lull period for halving. We're going to go through that. The news is very, very bullish. There's a lot of elements around the bullish news which I've covered, but ultimately the sentiment isn't there yet. Feels like people are on their holidays. So with that said, I'm going to cover some news, but not as much, more technical analysis today. So if you like this sort of stuff, leave a like. It massively, massively helps. And comment if you want to offer an opinion that could be different to what mine is. That could be fun. So the first thing we need to get off the bat is the fact that Bitcoin and the Strike app is coming to the UK. However, there's probably going to be more warnings on this than a freaking, I don't know, some sort of explosive device, because the FCA in the UK very much, oh, you can't invest in that. You lose all your money. So we're going to be somewhat careful. There will be warnings galore, probably a really, really hard questionnaire. So yeah, this bit is interesting. Now, if you've never heard of it, go and check it out. It's kind of like a very, very simple element to buy Bitcoin, use Bitcoin, and most importantly, dollar cost average into it via your bank. Very, very simple way. But the FCA is going to be fully on this like a shit on a stick, basically. Other bit of news, and a simple bit of news, we kind of covered it yesterday, is there's more news regarding the lower demand compared to Bitcoin for the Ethereum ETF. Now, I've said this loads of times, the demand for the BTC ETFs was really, really good. This will probably be lower anyways, but I don't think it'll be as low as people think. I think in terms of the element of silly money might well come into this eventually with the price of Ethereum versus Bitcoin and what people look at. And there will be people who do lack of research. We know that. So interesting elements around this. Obviously, this could then lead to more and more ETFs. But when we talk about the nature of this video done by Altcoins is more the fact that this ETF could be going live very soon. And we know what happened on the last ETF that went live. We went down a lot, quite a lot. Now, again, we go over it. We do not know what's going to happen, but as we've talked about and speculated over the last God knows how many months and years, Mt. Gox will be distributing in July over 140,000 BTC. Now, the golden globe in your hand is what's going to happen to that money. Are people going to keep it? Are people going to sell it? Are people going to trade it? We don't know. We don't know. So I think people may sell, but not as much as we think. This is what this article's getting at. Now, obviously, liquidations and all kinds of factors will come into the volatility, but what moves the market more than anything is actually fear. People's perception of, oh, God, this is a bit shit. They're all going to dump it. What if they don't? What if there's only 50% of them that actually sell it for cash? Cool. That's halved it. What if people move that into some altcoins? That could happen. We have to be mindful and also open-minded. The market is very much at levels of support. But as I say, I think if Bitcoin bounces, I think altcoins might struggle. This is the whole purpose of this. So to back up these claims of altcoins might struggle is the fact that Chainlink are doing a big unlock. Oh dear. This again, as you can see, sparking fears of a potential price to $10. I will do technical analysis on Chainlink, right? However, thus being said, this is a problem with altcoins at the minute, is a lot of dilution, a percentage of the supply, and an unlock schedule of 7% of the total supply annually is getting released. That creates, again, fear. We talk about psychological elements, and that's a big factor, especially for Chainlink. And Chainlink's a good asset now. It's, compared to a few years ago, it's a much better asset. But this is one of the elements that they have as a little bit of a cross mark to it. The fundamentals are 90% of altcoins have this sort of thing. It's just the way they work. They create the value through the token and they use the tokens to keep them alive, basically. And over time, they create a revenue model and then they become self-sufficient, right? However, thus being said, in a market where we are shitting ourselves and we're at spot levels, this news is not welcomed. Random news, I know, but if you've not seen this before, this is kind of important. The government of Germany are offloading a shit ton of Bitcoin. Now, 900 is a decent chunk in value. Now, that is a massive factor. And yes, they have been sending it out. And this is all labeled as like, I wouldn't say confiscated, but kind of taken due to illegal activities. And this is the thing, the UK is another one. And, you know, when we talk about what government has what, obviously the UK have some Bitcoin that's been seized. The US clearly do. Obviously Germany now. My question is to everyone in the room is, why would you not keep that and use it as a reserve to like fix your potholes or something? Especially in the UK, you should be doing that. So yeah, this again, fear. What is the biggest problem around all this information is the fact that people are speculating of an alt season just because one day Bitcoin dropped more than altcoins and everyone's getting very excited. I even tweeted about it yesterday, right? And this is the factor. We are nowhere near an alt season. Nowhere fucking close to an alt season. This is why we need to be so careful. So please, guys, be very, 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 very careful with your altcoins. And the TA will prove this. So news headlines are starting to get very excited just because one day dominance dropped. Yay, whoop-de-doo. However, there was a reason for it, and let me kind of somewhat explain it. Now, this is a bit of information. We are currently in Bitcoin season. We've had a good run from November all the way up to the end of January kind of time. If you remember that, it was really nice. And we've been melting since. Now, this is a really good chart. It does help you. You can see the performance over the last 90 days. It's not looking good, bro. Only the Telegram coin, essentially, CAS, XMR, and so XMR had a horrible period before that, by the way. And you can see just kind of what's happening. The whole market is dead. Now, I know people are like, oh, but this, that, and the other. The whole market's down. Reality is. But the problem we have in a situation like this is if Bitcoin bounces from 60k levels and up to 61, 62, 65, whatever, and the altcoins don't follow it, it's going to get pretty horrible, especially for those Satoshi pairs. So this is when I go into the technical analysis and go, do you see what I mean? We're going to do that. So painting the picture, I said yesterday I've bought some Bitcoin, and I did. I wasn't bothered about the longevity of my order because 62k was roughly where I bought. I was quite happy to buy there, right? We went a bit lower. We could go much lower. If we start going into these 51k levels, I'll be buying more, right? That's just the way it is. However, just to paint the picture, if Bitcoin does this, we might be in trouble. The reason why I say that is because this is now at levels of resistance. This is the total 2/BTC pair. We could be going much lower. This is in a honking downtrend. It's not looking great. A tiny break of structure here, but this is the level of resistance. It needs to break above this. So obviously, probability-wise, we're looking at Bitcoin at support levels. Okay. And we're looking at this at resistance levels. You don't really want that. You want it the other way around. Now, the fundamentals are clear. Altcoins are struggling due to one thing and one thing only. Dilution of tokens. There's too many going around. Too many unlocks, not enough liquidity, therefore they're getting hurt. Simple. When we look at charts like this, it paints a telling picture. The other telling picture is the fact that this is broken structure. This is the others.d, by the way. And the dominance of the world of altcoins is somewhat dropping, and it has dropped since this peak here. Yeah, we could go much higher here, but ultimately, this is in a bit of a downtrend. So if we look at the technicals, and I don't like doing technicals on dominance charts, if we're looking at the obvious, we've pulled up to levels of resistance and we went in, created this new low down here. However, we could go much, much lower. What could happen next is this is the peak, this is the low. We could be going into levels of resistance up around here, and we could fall back into this buy good asset zone, right? That's a reality. It's looking more likely than not. And again, going on to Bitcoin dominance, and when we're looking at levels like this, we are at levels of support. We have been holding this level and failing to break out, but eventually over time, that could well break. If Bitcoin bounces and the altcoins do not follow it, well, it's probably going to go and retest these highs again. The reality is here, a lot of altcoins are looking like this. We've had a big, massive drop down. We're bouncing, but we are going to levels of resistance. Now, I've actually sold some more of my NIA this morning, certainly in the BTC pair, because we're at levels of resistance. I will show you that chart right now. Wait a second. Let me just have a little look. There. So I have sold around these levels not too long ago because, again, as I say, we've had a massive meltdown. We're bouncing back up into levels of resistance, but we have broken structure. This is the problem. A lot of altcoins are going to look great short term. They're going to be, oh, bouncing. Yay. But we're bouncing into level break structure, a change of character, and that could lead to further downside movements because I feel that there's not enough liquidity to get this up much higher. We need a much bigger reset, in my opinion. Now, again, I talked about it before. Let's look at Chainlink, right? Chainlink, as you can see, similar to the likes of the NEAR protocol chart on this daily time frame, looking pretty horrible. The bloody 3-day chart looks even worse. We've literally deviated up, essentially melted right the way through it and then into this zone. Now, the problem that we do have if we look at these daily time frames is the fact that, well, from the swing high to the swing low, you could probably argue, yes, we could go up and retest $15. Yeah, great, whoop-de-doo. But what if it rejects from that point and goes back down to here? What if it then loses this level because it had multiple taps and then goes towards $10? Now, $10 doesn't seem too far-fetched, and it is in confluence with this region. I'd be very, very careful in terms of what you do, because if you start getting FOMO that, oh, we're back, boys, we may well find that we might not be. With Bitcoin going up in value, we may well see these get pushed anyways. If we then go and look at the BTC pair, it's not looking good, bruv, because we are at levels of resistance not too far away. The reality is here, we could reject off this zone here and go lower. Even if it doesn't reject off that zone, there's other zones not too far away from where these peaks are that could be used, right? Look at what happened at the start of the year, how high we were, but look at how much we've dropped. People have forgotten about these drops. This is why I was screaming to people, guys, take profit in the BTC pair because we've had a huge run. If you bought the lows, you're going to be rewarded, which is what I've done with NEAR Protocol and a couple of others. The big underlying element is we've got a lot of, altcoins. And when we look at the likes of BNB chart, it's the only one that looks relatively good. Solana is another one, looks relatively okay. But some looks pretty awful. Ethereum, maybe not, but, Phantom melted quite a bit, certainly from these highs. So we have to look at the bigger picture. So if we look at every single altcoin in terms of my watch list at the minute, there's a big drop from levels of spot. This is obviously, Cardano, very, very simple to look at, looks relatively ugly. But this level here, a previous support break, support holder into a break, will probably act as levels of resistance, right? If, as I say, Bitcoin goes and corrects itself and bounces up to $63,000, $64,000, we're probably going to go and retest these levels. And then it'll be very, very interesting. Now, you may well find that some will go above, but probability-wise, not looking good. Let's look at Algo. This is going to look awful, isn't it? Oof. Again, we've got levels of resistance from the break. We've got so far we can bounce here, but it could go much, much lower. Again, this is a very, very interesting one. This is actually, wow, how old is this? I don't even know how old my analysis is on this one. So again, in simple terms, if you're looking at this region here, that's what we're going to have. Again, 382 level corresponds with this level of support. What if it does go to this level and fails, and we continue going into this region again, go and retest this range low, and we could go lower into new lows? Remember, this asset, ARB, will have a fuck ton of dilution to worry about. Avalanche is one of the worst performing assets versus Bitcoin, certainly in the last, 90 days. And again, we've got these levels here that could get retested. Why could that get retested? Well, very, very simply, you got to look at the obvious here. This, in terms of structure, we could be going right up into towards this sort of region. I'll probably remove that, to be fair. You probably make a new level zone around this fib level because it's all in confluence with previous levels of supports, which is now broken, and we could be bouncing up towards this region. Liquidity will be found and short sellers will be getting more and more confident, and we could continue going and having a bigger correction. Again, when we look at the vibe here, this is a big, big boy correction, certainly from the high, 63%. Bitcoin Cash, the run-up, and could be a fantastic alternative for Bitcoin if you were looking at the hype narrative of Bitcoin as a potential run-up. But look, why did this run up? Well, halving probably the big factor. Look at the state of it. Levels of resistance here, probably going to go and retest and could go lower into this consolidation zone. I could go on about all kinds of stuff. Dogecoin is a great example of, again, another level break. Go and retest it, probably reject it if the liquidity is low, and go and find newer levels. Polkadot is another one. This failed completely on this level, but hey, it is what it is. We will get level fails, but this level could easily hold this levels of resistance and could continue going back to the range lows. I can go on and on. They all look the same. And the big cork in the bottle for this is the fact that Bitcoin has all the minerals to potentially do a small bounce. Even if it bounces to $63,000, $64,000, it's going to get people excited. But reality is, what if Bitcoin only goes to 65,000, which is this level of resistance, and could go and retest this low again? This is all hypothetical, not financial advice. But the reality is every single altcoin is looking like this at levels of resistance. When you marry it up with the BTC pair, it looks even worse and it isn't looking good. Matic is another good example as well, almost at level lows, could bounce up towards these levels at 65 and then go and retest these again. Be bloody careful. So there we go. I know it's all doom and gloom, but ultimately we've got to look at chart structure and get our feet on the floor correctly. If you're buying levels of support, sweet, but always be mindful of those resistance levels. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and a comment, whatever. Comments do help, likes do help, and I do appreciate the support. Reality is though, still pretty early, but a Bitcoin bouncing a big bounce could be trouble for those altcoins in the short term.